Brad Williams, Labor Compliance Group. In this monthly newsletter, we're going to talk about Davis-Bacon and completing what's called the WH-347. It's the standard certified payroll report if you're doing a federal Davis-Bacon project. I'm going to go quickly through this thing, a lot of moving parts. So let me introduce you to the form. This is the form. This is the standard form used in its legacy. This thing has been around for a million years. It's just the form that needs to be completed manually. Unless you're using a labor compliance software program or certified payroll software program, you're going to have to do this manually. And it's straightforward. Again, it's legacy. It's been around for a million years. So I'm going to walk you through how to do this. Here's the form. I'm going to use a couple of different components here in terms of the moving parts. The next component here is the instructions. So I'm going to close this out and I'm going to close this out. And here we have the instructions laid out specifically, explicitly, mandatorily. I don't know if that's a word, but this is the format set by Davis-Bacon people, and it's boring. Here it's, you go to point A, you go to point B, you go to point C, and you just use some common sense here. I'll leave a link for this particular document, but all you have to do in Google is type in WH-347 instructions and you'll get this. Otherwise, you're going to use this DOL link, but here is an example, and I'm just going to walk you through this thing. I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to open up that blank form because it's an example. Here's the blank form. I'm going to narrow it down. I'm going to walk you through this thing step by step. The completion of the WH-347 payroll form is optional. Contractors may utilize their own payroll system as long as it conforms to WH-347. As I stated, there are a handful of payroll software applications that will do this automatically. For smaller groups, yeah, I can see where you need to fill this out. For any large operation, I'm sure you know how to do this. So this is for individuals that manually need to complete the WH-347. You're going to check right here. It says check one of the boxes and list name a contractor or sub right here. The last period of the payroll period right here, you're going to have this for week ending. For week ending right here, you're going to enter that particular date. Certified payrolls for federal is on a weekly basis. I'm in California. We have some options. We can do monthly, we can do bi-weekly, or we can do weekly. Here on federal projects, it is weekly. Fill out completely with contractor, subcontractor address. This is a lot of common sense stuff. Your payroll must be numbered sequentially. This is critical and should be based on the weeks worked under a contract. Type the word final when the last payroll is submitted for the project. Right here, indicate the days and dates of the pay period, and they should match week ending directly above. Right here, you're going to put day and date. You want me to expand this a little bit? You can see, not the best example in the world, but you can put Sunday, the 18th. Again, it's just a manual deal. With this PDF form, you can just type in this information. It's pretty standard stuff. I'm going to narrow this down just a bit. I'm going to clean this up so it's a little more legible and shrink it. The next step, the name and location of the project. Don't mix up. If you're working on multiple federal projects, you're not to mix up your location, and the prime contractor should include the project number as listed in the whatever. So just keep a ID number. In the state of California, we have a project ID number. I suspect on a federal project, you're going to have some unique number. Try to keep it as logical as possible. List each worker name. Here, name and individual, identifying number, last four digits of social security number. So here it says, list each worker's name. Only laborers and mechanics performing construction work under the contract should be listed. We're not putting working foreman. Well, if you have a working foreman, in other words, your foreman is doing some type of skilled or unskilled craft, then you need to list that individual. If it's the owner of the company who's not out on the project, you do not list your administrative or your secretarial or engineers unless they're doing something related to the project. Please note, business owners need only include their name, work classification, including owner, in the daily total hours worked. That means if they are an electrician and they're doing electrical work, they need to note their hours and their title. Specify the job classification located in the contract wage decisions. That's something, if you don't know, I'm going to produce another monthly newsletter on navigating prevailing wages for federal Davis-Bacon projects. This is going to be your wage classification or wage determination. List hourly wage rate and fringes paid in cash, not those paid to plans. What's the difference? When you look at the certified payrolls, you're going to see the hourly rate, then you're going to have your benefits. If you're paying the total hourly rate and fringes, you're going to list that total amount here under rate of pay. Then do your computations. So let's just go to the next step. Specify the total overtime and straight time hours. Your rate of pay is going to be listed here. Listed hourly wage rate and fringes paid in cash. Now, what do they mean by paid in cash? That would be the total fringes and hourly rate. So what you have to do is make sure you reconcile this number. So if it's $100 an hour and it's 10 hours for the week, you're going to have total hours here, 10 times 100. Let's just say that's total fringes and hourly rate. So you're going to put rate of pay 100 and gross amount earned. You're going to see gross amount earned is 1422.82 divided by 2012-46. What that means is you're going to look at the wage determination and you're going to have your hourly rate, then the combined fringe benefit amount. You're going to add those two together and you're going to have your rate of pay. You're at 62.83. This is hard to read, so I'm going to show you, I'm going to magnify this just a bit. I'm going to give you a clearer picture of what we're trying to do. If you're making let's try to get the cleanest picture here. Right here, you have this Roy Wrench, who's a steam fitter. His hourly rate is $34.41 an hour. His fringes are $17.50. You're going to use that number, you're going to add those two up. That's going to be your, what they call your cash rate. You're going to multiply that times this $20 an hour. And it should reconcile to this 103,840. This other number, 2043, I'll explain that in a minute. What you need to do, time-consuming part of all of this, is the computation of this information here. You're going to have your FICA, your withholdings, and any other incidental information, and you need to recognize all of that so it adds up. Let's go back over this. You have your day, the date. You have your hour, so Monday through Friday. You're going to have your Saturday information. Over here, you're going to have regular time. You see here, one will be overtime right here, O. See this O right here and this S. So overtime and standard. You're not working any overtime. Clearly, you ignore the O and just focus on the S. Total hourly rate, then your rate of pay. Your hourly and your fringes, multiply 2750 times this combined number, then do your overtime, then add them up. This other number here relates to if you're working on multiple federal projects, to list the combined number. I'll detail that in a minute. Must accurately reflect overtime and straight time, O and S, as I just mentioned. And then as you reconcile this information, once you have your federal withholdings, taxes and state and other, you're gonna add up your hourly income. Then you're gonna subtract your withholdings. Well, actually, you're gonna add up your withholdings. Then you're gonna subtract them from your gross pay. So this 1064. If you take this 106.4, you subtract the 307, you're going to get 757 for weekly pay. In this page 3, if part of a worker's weekly wage was earned on projects other than the project described on this payroll, keep in mind this payroll is for a specific project. As I mentioned earlier, and I said you don't want to mix up your projects because they are individual. You're going to have to reconcile that information. You're going to have to do a simple accounting and keep track of that number. You're going to have to enter the gross amount earned on this contract in the top half, in this top half right here of the project, Enter the gross amount earned during the week for all projects in the bottom half, right here. Alex Driver worked 29 hours on this contract and 12 and a half hours on another contract. The gross wages earned on this project, $14.22, is entered in the top half. The gross wages earned on all projects is $2,012.46. Right here. Now, it's not clear whether this deduction reflects the 1422 or the combined. So we'll work through and see if that is noted below. If an employer performs multiple work classifications under the contract, use two or more lines to distinguish the different job classifications, hours worked, and hourly wages. In other words, Joe Wrench is a plumber and a steam fitter. Two different classifications on this project. You want to make sure you enter two different line items, then you reconcile it on one. Here they're taking this 1038 and the 1066, and they're using the combined deductions. Keep in mind, when you're doing your payroll, make sure you're not double counting on terms of your deduction. In other words, is it based on the 2063.46? If it is, and you're filling out a second WH-347, you could be double counting. I would think you would work off this 1422 number, but you have your own system. As long as it is approved by the awarding agent or the compliance officer, you're good to go. How do you deal with other deductions? To support this channel, check out the courses I provide. Understanding DIR, Labor Compliance Rules and Regulations. Fantastic course. 6 hours long. If you're doing work in California, this is a must. Federal Davis-Bacon FAQs, nifty little tutorial with a lot of Q&As. San Francisco local hire regulations. If you're doing work in San Francisco or the Bay Area, this is absolutely required. It's just mind-boggling if you're doing work in San Francisco. Navigating DIR websites, there's more there than you think. This is a complement to my labor compliance rules and regulations. The rules and regulations is the statutory requirements, then it's understanding DIR. Over here in this navigating DIR websites, I walk you through how to navigate DIR. And trust me, it is cumbersome. DIR prevailing wages FAQ. This is helpful if you're experienced with DIR, but sometimes stumble as to what if. Well, this is a helpful guide to answering some frequently asked questions. Federal Davis-Bacon Contractors Guide. If you're not familiar with how Davis-Bacon and prevailing wages work, I walk you through step by step. This covers all agencies. And then consulting, I still provide consulting. If you're doing a large project and you need project monitoring, I do that. If you have just common questions you're not familiar with that are not addressed in my other examples, feel free to call me. And if you need one-on-one training for either DIR or Davis-Bacon, we can set something up. If this newsletter has been helpful, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, and check out all the links below. If you have other deductions, you need to recognize that in this section here. For example, let's look here under other deductions. If you put a number there, let's just take a look here. In terms of withholding tax, they just noted withholding tax. It looks like they put state and medical here. So you can list whatever your requirements are for withholdings. Just do your reconciliation. Provide explanation of other deductions on the signatory page. Here is the signatory page, and we'll get to that too in a second. A registered apprentice performing work under a contract must be reported. Payroll must include the current pay scale. Provide a copy of the apprenticeship agreement. Here you have just this apprentice carpenter, and it says first 6 months at 40%. If you don't understand what this is, take a look at my course I just presented to you, and I'll explain all of that. Fringe benefits are not paid as cash to Bart Turner. Explanation is included under C, exceptions on signatory page. So let's go down here and take a look here. We have this first requirement, Alex Driver. Well, in terms of the signatory page, whoever's the authorized signature, you're going to list the date, your signature party, the title, construction company, the project name. You can see how much redundancy there is here. The date, the start week, the end week, the contractor, company name, and then any other issues for the full weekly, blah, blah, blah. Secretary Copeland. Number 2, that any payroll otherwise under this contract required to be submitted to the above period are correct and completed. This section here, it states that you have recognized that there are other deductions and that this person, Alex Driver, is recognized as you pulling $85 out for child support. So that's what this recognition is when you acknowledge this particular withholding, and it has to be recognized. You're not authorized to withhold money without the worker's written approval. The other, remember here, we have this comment, fringe benefits are not paid as cash. So you're going to have to go in here and you're going to state power equipment paid directly to plan, health and dental at $12.50 per hour and pension at $6.25 per hour. Now let me explain how this works here. You have this fringe benefits not paid as cash to Bart Turner. In the above example here, you're going to see just above, we have $34.41 hourly, $17.51. This is paid in cash to Roy Wrench. Now, Bart Turner, he has a exception here. All you're going to note is the $29.92 paid to him. Then you're going to take the $12.50 and the $6.25 and make a note as to that money is being paid to a particular plan, and that's that. Then you're just going to reconcile that information based on this $29.92, and if you just multiply $29.92 times 24, you're going to get this $7.19. If you look like this individual worked on another project, and that's pretty much an overview. I know this is kind of a bumpy road. Sorry that this form is hard to read, but it's better than nothing. We could go back and I could drag you through this really boring explanation here, but at least this example here can give you an overview. All this will be available for your viewing. You can download all this stuff. I'll leave links below. That's a simple overview of how to complete the Davis-Bacon WH-347 for federal projects. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you want me to provide other types of information, be it California DIR or Davis-Bacon related information, just leave a comment. Brad Williams, Labor Compliance Group, thanks for watching.